Hi, I'm Feng, aka Leopard Crust. This is my starter Saturday, and we're gonna make sourdough pizza. I'm really excited to share this recipe because I've been tweaking it for 2 years, and I've got some really cool tricks to share. First off, we're gonna feed our starter, and I'm just gonna give it a 1-to-1-to-1 feeding. And what that means is that we're gonna mix equal parts starter, flour, and water. This is 30 grams of starter, and we're going to add the same amount of water. And finally, we're gonna add 30 grams of flour. So my starter is a rye flour starter, but you can make a starter out of any flour you like. So the difference with the ratios, apart from the time it takes for your starter to peak, is all about the flavor that starter will contribute to your main dough. So I like 1-to-1-to-1 because I want to taste my sourdough in my sourdough pizza dough. But if you prefer a milder taste, there's nothing wrong with going 1-to-3-to-3. So that's 1 part starter, 3 parts water, 3 parts flour, or 1-10-10. So the interesting thing about rye starters is that they absorb a lot more water. So even though this is 100% hydration, you'll notice that it's a lot thicker than a white flour starter. We've covered this with cling film. You can also use a jar with a lid. And then now we're just gonna place a rubber band where the starter is coming up to right now in the jar. And that's gonna help us monitor the growth of the starter. And mine takes 3 hours to peak at about 26 degrees Celsius. Yours may take more or less time, but you'll know just by looking at how much it's grown and when it started to slow down on that. So now we're gonna put our starter aside and we're gonna start on our Autolyse. An Autolyse is simply mixing the flours that you're using with some water so that it gets a head start in hydration, and it's got heaps of benefits. 1, it gives your dough a head start in gluten formation. 2, it's a lot faster to knead, even if you're using a machine. And if you're hand mixing like I am today, it cuts your kneading time in half. So that's why we are doing it in Autolyse. I like to start with water first. I find it a lot easier to incorporate the flour when the water goes in first. And then here we've got 2 kinds of flour. We've got a 00 flour and we've got a bread flour. So blending flours really changes the different kinds of pizza doughs you can make. Today we're gonna do a 70-30 mix, but you can play around with the ratios with the flours you use. It will never end, trust me. So I'm just gonna mix the 2 flours I have together, give it a rough stir. You don't have to worry too much about it being too evenly mixed when it's such a small quantity. And then we're going to add it to that water that we measured out. So I like to do this poking motion to get the flour into that water. I find it's the fastest and least effort way to get the job done. It'll take only like 1 or 2 minutes, depending on your batch size. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna scrape the dry bits off my hand because we don't wanna waste our hard-earned dough. All right, this just in, guys. You can use a shower cap to create a lid for your bowl. We're gonna set this aside and we're basically just gonna wait for our starter to double. Mine takes 3 hours in about 26 degrees Celsius, but if yours takes longer or shorter, that's fine. And that's when it's time to combine it together to our final dough. So it's been 3 hours and our starter is ready. You can see it's doubled and it's formed lots of lovely little bubbles, so we know it's alive and kicking. And let's have a look at our Autolyse. Beautiful. So you can definitely see that the water has had time to soak up the flour, so that's gonna be so easy to knead. Okay, so let's burp this baby. So we want 30 grams of this, which is 5% for this recipe. Now it's time for us to work for our pizza. So I'm just using my fingers to spread the starter across the dough. And then I like to use a mixture of stretch and folds, which is pretty self-explanatory to incorporate. What I like about hand mixing is you can really feel the dough becoming more tense over time and changing over time. So this is called the roux method, where you just stretch the dough upwards and let it go. And you do that over and over again. And what this does is it straightens out all the gluten strands and helps it to form stronger bonds. The roux method is particularly good for higher hydration doughs. And this is 70, so anything 68 and above, the roux method is great for. If you're doing a lower hydration, you can just knead it on the counter. Check out this video where I show you how. Oh, check it out. Look how much our dough has changed. Before I couldn't even pull it up like this, and now you can. And now you can see it's coming out of the bowl very cleanly. So that's a really great sign that that gluten is forming just as we like. So this will roughly take between 5 to 10 minutes. What you're looking for is for this elasticity to form in the dough. So if you lift it and it easily releases in all different directions that you grab the dough, that's a good sign that you can move on to the next step. And what's cool about the gluten forming is that your hands come out pretty clean by the end of it. So that's another good sign to look out for. Now that your dough is releasing from the bowl, it's time to add the salt. We've got 18 grams of salt here. This is 3% of the total flour weight, because we're using baker's percentages. And then smooth that across the surface of the dough, and we're gonna start to incorporate that. If you hand knead this is a really cool moment because you will feel the dough totally change on you. Look at that. See how before when we lifted it, it was elongating? The salt really strengthens the gluten even more, and now the dough is coming out as a single mass. What else we're looking for is for it to easily develop a smooth surface. So that's how we know that the gluten formation that we want is working. How you know when to stop is 1, the surface of the dough is fairly smooth. 2, as you're kneading it, you can't feel any salt granules anymore. So that's a good sign that the water in the dough has diluted the salt. And 3, you can do the window pane test. So the window pane test involves you stretching your dough out and seeing if you can see light through it. I think this one needs a little bit more kneading because we saw some tearing as we were stretching it out. So I usually knead the dough without salt for 5 to 10 minutes, and then the knead with the salt is usually about 3 minutes for me. Okay, that's looking way better. So now we know that this dough is ready for bulk ferment. So the speed of your bulk ferment will depend on various factors such as how active your starter is, the strength of your flour, the room temperature, and even the temperature of your water. So what I like to do when I'm working with a new flour is I like to take out a little tiny piece of test dough and basically use that to monitor the fermentation. So all you want to do is take out a little bit of test dough and put it in a straight edge jar, and you can flatten it out slightly so that it's fairly level, so that it's really easy to see the volume increase on this baby dough. Now that our dough is fairly level, we're just gonna put on a rubber band to indicate the current level that it's at. It's really easy to look at this dough and see what kind of activity is happening, like how much it's rising. Because when you try to estimate when the dough has changed volume in a round bowl, it can be really hard to tell exactly how much it's risen. I just like to neaten up the main dough by giving it a fold so it's nice and round again. Okay, so now we're gonna cover both so that they don't dry out. For my starter and my room temperature, this usually takes about 5.5 hours. We're gonna come back in an hour and give it a stretch and fold. And what that does, it helps to build the gluten strength even more. You can definitely experiment with how many rounds of stretch and folds you like to incorporate into your dough making. I usually stick with 1 or 2 because if you have too many stretch and folds, then you'll end up with a very rubbery dough. See you in an hour. So it's been an hour and let's have a look. So we can see that our dough's had time to relax because it's now flat on top, and we're gonna give it a fold. I just like to grab it down the middle and stretch it upwards. You can definitely see that it's changed since the last time we handled it. I like to move it to the counter, fold it over, and we do it again. So I like to give it a quick flicking motion so that the dough kind of curls underneath in the front. And then we can roll it into a ball. And that's it. That's a really easy way to add strength to your dough without having to have an extended knead. We're gonna place it back in the bowl and cover it up again. And then we'll just wait for this to increase in height by 10% and show signs of activity like bubbles forming on the side. And that's when we'll move the dough into the fridge. So it's been 7 hours at 22 degrees Celsius, and our test dough is looking really good. It's increased in volume by 10%, where we marked it with this rubber band. And we're also seeing lots of beautiful activity thanks to these little bubbles on the side. These are great signs that we can move on to the next step. So we're just portioning the dough at this stage. We will ball them up later before their final proof. Putting these dough balls into small containers if you don't have a dough tray is perfectly fine. In fact, I prefer it because I'm usually eating one batch of dough across a few days. I just place the dough into the container and we're just gonna put a lid on it so that it's airtight. Once the dough is in their containers, we'll just place them in the fridge until you're ready for pizza. This is a dough ball that I made a couple of days ago. We're gonna make sourdough pizza today, so I'm gonna get it out for its final proof. You'll see that the dough has relaxed and flattened out, and then you can see some bubbles of activity underneath if you've used a clear container, which I always love looking at. As usual, if you're worried about dough sticking to your hands, just make sure you've wet them and you'll have no problems. So using all this water to keep the dough from sticking means that you don't have to use oil. So I'm just using the dough scraper to get our dough ball out. I always love to dangle my dough. So I'm just balling the dough by pushing the cutter forward and moving it around, basically going in a quarter circle until we get a nice smooth surface on the dough. So that right there is surface tension. It'll help to keep our dough together when we press it out into a base. And the cool thing about developing the surface tension is that the dough becomes less sticky as well. It's a pizza maker's best friend. So now we're gonna just transfer this into the tray and we're gonna let this final proof. So I've been a fan of longer final proofs because that allows the dough to develop a lot of gas that will become beautiful air bubbles for your puffy crust. If you don't have a dough tray, what you can do is just put your dough ball on a flat plate and put a bowl over it to cover it so that it doesn't form a skin. This one is gonna take 6 hours at 22 degrees Celsius. But basically what you're looking out for to know when final proof is done is for the dough ball to have doubled in size and relaxed, because it's really difficult to stretch out a dough ball into a pizza base when it hasn't had a chance to relax again. Another good sign is if you give your dough a shake, it should jiggle like a beautiful jelly. So it's time to give our dough a spin. So let's see what we got here. All right, so you can see our dough has had time to relax. It's kind of doubled in size and it's looking very nice and jiggly. Okay, so we've got our dough out into the semolina. We've given it a flip, so we've coated both sides. And then now we're gonna press out the air to the crust. One thing that I've been loving is kind of defining the crust border in the bowl itself, like this, just spinning the bowl. I just find it really easy to make a really lovely even border in this way. Okay, and after we're happy with our border, we're just gonna take it out of the bowl, place that down. At this point, you wanna let any excess air out of the crust. We basically want the height of the crust to be even so that it puffs up evenly. So now we're just gonna stretch it out a bit. Beautiful. So now we're going to make a classic pizza margherita, starting with our tomato sauce, some Parmigiano Reggiano. Next up, we've got some mozzarella, just scattering that across our pizza base. I always like to put on enough so you've got some cheese in every bite, but you can still see the sauce coming through. That's the balance that I like to try to strike. And then we've got our beautiful fresh basil over here. We're just gonna scatter that around the pizza. Oh, smells amazing. Fresh really is best. And finally, we're gonna go around with some extra virgin olive oil. I always like to target the leaves so that it'll help it fry in the oven instead of be burnt to a black crisp. We just sprinkle a little bit of flour on the top edge of the peel to help the pizza get onto the peel. And then we shake off the excess flour. And then we give our pizza a final stretch. So in this part, we're mostly stretching the border outwards because we want to avoid stretching the middle too thin. It's time for our bake in the Gozney dome. All right, so we're cooking with a stone temp of about 400 degrees Celsius. Lately, I've been really liking a low flame bake. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I like to wait for the part near the flame to show some spots before I turn the pizza. It's always a good idea to try to turn your pizza so that it's in the same spot. Otherwise, you might hit a really hot spot and burn the outer rim of your crust. All right, we've got our sourdough pizza margherita all sliced up, ready to go. Could I ask Rox for you to join me?
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is delicious. This is very sourdoughy.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad. We got some pretty decent structure in there. So that was all that gluten development that we worked on throughout the process, paying off. For the recipe,
Go to Gozney.com.
I didn't know I could do this. Like, wow, I learned something about myself today.